If there was one thing that 49ers wide receivers have not done nearly as well as they used to over the past couple of seasons, and I'm looking outside of separation. That's obviously just very, very correlated with the quality of player you have out there. But even before the 49ers had a lot of stars on this team, they were picking up a lot of yards after the catch. That is exactly what the 49ers have generally failed to do. They're near the bottom of the league in terms of YAC over the past two seasons. And even the guys that they've added this offseason, Mike Evans, Christian Kirk, are not expected to be big yards after the catch receivers. So that's why it's very, very interesting that the 49ers are going to be hosting 30 visits. Those are top 30 visits with a pair of YAC monsters at wide receiver, both of whom might go in the first round. KC Concepcion out of Texas A&M. That's Ryan Fowler. He reported that the 49ers will be hosting him. And Omar Cooper Jr. out of Indiana, the national champions. 49ers will also be hosting him. Some talking about Omar Cooper as a second rounder, but has the athletic scores. We'll take a look at them to be a potential first round pick. And the Texas A&M Pro Day is in about a week, and we're going to get some numbers there on KC Concepcion. Potentially, he did have a knee scope procedure, which has prevented him from doing some testing here in the offseason, so I'm not sure exactly when he's going to be able to perform some of the metrics that the scouts are going to want. But the tape is there for both of these guys, and you can see wide receiver yards after the catch over expectation. This is an average per catch. KC Concepcion, the second best in the whole class, but better even than USC's Mekhi Lemon. And Omar Cooper Jr., whom some have compared to Deebo Samuel, is here in the top five. Both of them well over the average in terms of yards after catch per expectation. Both of these guys, I think, can fit the 49ers. Neither is a massive receiver, but San Francisco already has one of those in Mike Evans. And in the case of KC Concepcion, he can return punts, two returns for touchdowns at Texas A&M, and a chance for the 49ers to go Texas A&M heavy in their wide receiver room. Christian Kirk is an alum, Mike Evans is an alum, and KC Concepcion, probably you can compare his style a lot to Christian Kirk's. He's 5'11", he's a little bit smaller, could fit into a slot receiver role right away. I know that receivers have generally gotten smaller in the NFL over the course of the past several years, so maybe he can fit into a Z receiver role as well. But I think if you're looking for immediate impact, Christian Kirk and KC Concepcion, the two former Texas A&M Aggies, can go hand in hand. You know, Concepcion played at NC State before he transferred to Texas A&M. It's actually really, really rare to see a player stay at one school now throughout the entirety of their college career. But you can see that his usage changed over the years. 2023 at NC State, he was vast majority a slot guy, 93% slot alignment, shorter routes. The average depth of target was 8.5 yards and was very productive. 2.32 yards per route run is solid. Second year at NC State, he started to line up out wide a little bit more, but still was vast majority slot, and they were going even shorter to him. Transfers to Texas A&M, shows that he can play outside receiver, at least at the college level. 65% of the time he was outside. Showed how versatile he was. The yards per route run went up. It was a college football playoff team at Texas A&M, and of course, he also delivered in special teams, and the 49ers have lost Sky Moore, their primary returner, to the Green Bay Packers in free agency. So, yeah, Christian Kirk can potentially give the 49ers a little bit of a floor. He has done some returning before. But if they want juice from a younger player, KC Concepcion, 21 years old, 8 years younger than his fellow Texas A&M Aggie, Christian Kirk, if they want some more juice at that position, they can go to the rookie Concepcion, if he's available at number 27. Now, a lot of people are saying, well, why would the 49ers pick a wide receiver at number 27? Well, I think it lines up perfectly for the 49ers if they like a receiver more than anyone at that spot to go in that direction, because the receiver room is prime for one more explosive addition. Even if you're looking at the short-term picture for the 49ers. They've got Evans, of course, at the X, so they're not looking for an X. Backup X can be Demarcus Robinson. They've got Pearsall at the Z. There have been some availability concerns with Ricky Pearsall. They've got Christian Kirk at the F, at the slot position. They can easily host an expanded competition for the slot position. And if Ricky Pearsall does miss any more time this year, there's going to need to be some pressure on that Z position from the depth pieces. And the depth pieces are very unproven in Jordan Watkins and Jacob Cowing. In fact, even if all 6 of these guys impress during parts of training camp, the chances of at least one of them being compromised health-wise at some point of this season is extremely high, just because that's the nature of football. That is nothing against any of these 6 guys, but you probably need more than 6 bona fide options for your wide receiver room if you're the 49ers. So this leaves the opening of them going after this position in the draft. Now, 30 visits. You have 30 of them. You can host the guys at your facility. They're like official visits ahead of the NFL draft. News has come out via Ryan Fowler on Casey Concepcion and via Matt Barrows on Omar Cooper Jr. out of Indiana that the 49ers are going to use 2 of their 30 visits on these 2 wide receivers. So if wide receiver were completely off the table after the signings of Mike Evans and Christian Kirk, the 49ers would not be burning 2 visits. It obviously still is on the table. And you've got to be ready for anything at pick number 27, because that is a whole lot of picks happening ahead of the 49ers. Some, Omar Cooper Jr. intel. There have been a lot of Deebo Samuel comparisons. I don't really agree with those comparisons because he's not nearly as big as Deebo Samuel. He's somebody that's, yes, a little bit over 200 pounds, 6 feet tall. Body type, a little bit shorter, doesn't have the same wingspan. Body type probably more reminiscent of Brandon Ayuk's than Deebo Samuel's for Omar Cooper. But the reason that people bring out these comparisons is because Indiana, very smart team. They won the national championship, really well coached. They used him in several different ways. They handed the ball off to him, and he's got a great forced missed tackle rate. These are the most forced missed tackles, like the highest forced missed tackle rates of day 1 wide receivers, if we consider Omar Cooper Jr. a day 1 wide receiver, if he goes in that first round, since 2015. And you could see some big-time names on here. Drake London, big body, was really hard to bring down at USC. CeeDee Lamb has obviously made a name for himself. Tedero McMillan had a nice rookie season for Carolina coming out of the University of Arizona. Malik Neighbors on here. Mekhi Lemon is on here. He's going to be in this draft and is expected to go in the first round out of USC. DJ Moore has made a good name for himself in the NFL. And then here it is, Omar Cooper Jr., forcing 1.88 missed tackles per game. Now, the reason that I don't really like the Omar Cooper Deebo Samuel comparisons that everybody seems to be going crazy with is right here. Here's the relative athletic score. I think the guy is tremendously explosive. I think that is to be lauded. You could see the 40-yard dash at 4.47, the 10-yard split at a 1.54. It's got a good vertical jump. But Deebo Samuel was able to, he ran a sub 4.5 at 220 plus. He's not one like this. I think Omar Cooper maybe a little bit north of 200 when he plays. Guys get a little bit lighter for the NFL Combine so they could run faster. So you could see him at 6 feet, 196. He definitely is not as big as a Deebo Samuel. And you do wonder if some of the trucking ability that we saw a little bit of it in college from Omar Cooper, it was hard to tackle him. I don't think you could do that to NFL guys. And that's what made Deebo Deebo. That's what made Deebo truly special, is that he was able to do that to NFL caliber competition throughout his prime. And earlier this morning, we had a show going on, said 2021, 2022, 2023 was the prime of Deebo Samuel. So, I mean, Omar Cooper, great. He could run the route tree. He could do a lot of different things on the football field, but I would be very, very careful and very cautious to expect somebody who's going to be a fullback out in the open, who's going to be able to just plow over players. We even have Deebo Samuel's relative athletic score for some comparisons here. Deebo, and yeah, he had a 4.48 40-yard dash, and it's a 4.47 40-yard dash for Omar Cooper. So yeah, similar speed, different types of size. Deebo Samuel weighed in at 214 pounds, so about 20 pounds heavier than Omar Cooper at the NFL Combine. And then those guys play at a higher weight when they're actually out on the field, because again, you get into testing shape for the Combine, then you have to be in football size for when actual games do happen. A couple other looks at numbers. Cooper, really good athlete. Nobody denying that. I mean, the explosiveness is there, has scored well in both the long speed and the explosiveness. You got the agility and the twitch. You watch the Indiana tape, and the guy was a weapon downfield, an absolute weapon. And the testing does reflect that when you do look at the relative athletic score for him. I mean, it is solid. It's great at both the speed and at the vertical jump. He just is not the biggest receiver, and he doesn't have a whole heck of a lot of return experience. And I do wonder how important that utility might be for the 49ers without Sky Moore now. I wonder who on this roster can deliver that spot. Somebody asked me, can Nate Hobbs, the new cornerback, return? He hadn't done much returning in his career. No punt returns, has returned a handful of kicks. Christian Kirk is the only one with, I would say, a sizable amount of experience doing that for the 49ers, but he hadn't done a whole lot of it lately, and he's on the tail end of his career. He's 29 years old. It could really suit them to get somebody in the NFL draft who can return. And the two that they are reported to be planning to host, in KC Concepcion and Omar Cooper Jr., it's KC who has the return experience. And boy, was he an explosive returner at Texas A&M. This guy, again, 2 touchdowns, lightning in a bottle when it came to that. And I know that we don't have the exact measurements on KC Concepcion when it comes to the 40 time and the 10 time, but we can watch the tape and we can make an educated assumption, prognostication that this guy's going to be able to run with the best of them at the NFL level. He was playing high-level college football, moving well, and he knows how to move too. It's not all about the times. It is about how you can translate your 40 time and your movement ability to actual production on the field. These are the most yards after the catch. So YAC per reception in 2025. So we'd had YAC per reception over expectation a little bit earlier. This is going to be closer to a raw number. As you can see, this is kind of cool here. KC Concepcion and Omar Cooper, I have my cursor right over them, are tied for that 2025 season at 7.2 yards after the catch per attempt. Could fill a little bit of a missing need for the 49ers, right? You could talk about, what the 49ers have right now and what kind of routes are they going to run. And I think that you do need to have some bubble screens in your repertoire. You need to have something where you just count on the receiver to catch the ball and take off with it. When the 49ers had Deebo Samuel in his prime, of course, they did a ton of that to mitigate opposing pass rushes, to mitigate blitzes. They're going to be able to run some slants to Mike Evans. They're going to be able to run some digs to Mike Evans. But I don't think that with Mike, and I don't think you ever really counted on this with Mike, but especially at this point of his career, you're not going to be expecting big-time YAC yardage. I think you want more of it from Ricky Pearsall for obvious reasons, and I think you'll see more of it if he can play the Z, if he can be in that flanker position a greater period of the time. But again, he hadn't produced very prolifically in a YAC sense for the 49ers. And Christian Kirk, I think earlier in his career, was more of a YAC guy. He scored a big YAC touchdown against the 49ers early in his career. But now Christian Kirk is 29 and probably going to be a little bit more of a possession guy for the 49ers. He's very good at being resourceful and getting lost in coverage. But when you just want pure dynamite, explosive YAC, I think that you're probably going to have to dip into either the rookie pool or your unproven receiver pool, and that is Jacob Cowing and Jordan Watkins, who are both going to be competing to get some more time. However, maybe that time that they're competing to get, that they're going to have to beat out another exciting draft pick for the 49ers. So this, at the very least, the fact that they're hosting Concepcion and the fact that they're hosting Omar Cooper Jr. during these 30 visits, which have been, by the way, very, very tied to some predictability regarding who the 49ers will actually draft. I think last year, 2 of their 11 picks came on 30 visits. And that for the 49ers, who don't like to send a lot of clues at all, was actually a decent correlation rate. In the past, though, quite a few of their 30 visits have actually ended up being drafted by the football team. Now that they are lower in the first round as well at pick number 27, I think that it means even more when it comes to the potential first round pick, because when you're picking in the top 5 or the top 10, as the 49ers had a couple times in this regime, you don't want to telegraph anything. But it's impossible to telegraph number 27 because there's just so much that can happen before. When you're early on and you can actually point at the teams ahead of you and what they might get and who might be available, when it's a much more fruitful exercise to do that, I don't think that you want to broadcast intentions necessarily by bringing a guy in who you want on a 30 visit. A good example of that is in 2018, they did not bring Mike McGlinchey in, and then they picked him at number 9. But for guys that might go first round, second round, and obviously the 49ers have picks there, first round, second round, third round, and then they've got the 3 fourth round picks. They don't have a third rounder actually anymore because of the trade for Osa Odigizua. That went to Dallas, but it's 1, 2, and then the fourth round picks that San Francisco has. You look at that, and I think you will be able to tie it more closely together to what the 49ers do with their 30 visits. I'm going to answer some questions about these receivers, maybe about some other prospects, other 49er stuff that you guys want. Wanted to give you guys a nice little evening update. I know that we're starting to pivot into draft mode. We're still in the midst of free agency, but it has slowed down considerably. We can do a show taking a look at free agent prospects who are still available. If you guys want that, go ahead and raise your hands in the comment section. But that's obviously for another time. I mean, I could talk about guys like Joel Bitonio and Joey Bosa, and we could talk about those guys until we're blue in the face. But the point of the matter is right now that the 49ers are going to have to find bargains moving forward in free agency, both to satisfy their salary cap situation and to satisfy their roster situation. I mean, one of the areas that needs the most work, obviously, just on the surface, you can tell that the defensive line still rather thin, also has some alarming injuries. But that receiver spot can still, and I think might still, get some attention for the 49ers in this draft. So you could take a look at the roster here, but if you have any good questions, please put them into that comment section. What's the timeline for Trent? Tomorrow, potentially, unless they move the option bonus due date back. Unless they find a way to vest that option bonus into a base salary and then just say, we're going to deal with this over the rest of the offseason. At the very least, I think coming out of this weekend or this week, because the option due date is tomorrow, we will get an idea of how confident the 49ers are that this is going to get resolved. If this is something that they're just willing to kick the can down the road, that means that there's confidence this will get done. Kind of like there was in 2024, when all the focus was on Brandon Ayuk, and then he signed, and then Trent Williams was not that long after him. But there never was real hand-wringing about Trent in 2024. I know that the early salvo from likely Trent's agent, 90 minutes ahead of John Lynch's scheduled press time at the NFL Combine, has made this a little bit more dramatic on the surface. But if the 49ers and Williams camp just kick the can down the road this week, which is totally possible, which is within their control, then I think we're going to get more and more 2024 vibes out of this. So we'll see. I want resolution sooner rather than later so I could do a show about it, and I could talk to the contractual numbers on this show, and we can explain how this all fits, and we can see the exact salary cap impact for the 49ers. But that's only perfect world thinking. Sometimes we don't get what we want. So I'm just going to sit back and be patient regarding the Trent Williams situation. Nick says Jordan Watkins and KC are the same size. Why not let Jordan Watkins prove himself first and draft a bigger receiver? I mean, maybe that's how Kyle Shanahan is thinking, because they do have a bigger guy now in Mike Evans, who's 6'5", and Mike Evans might not be around for all too long. Could only be a 1 year thing with Mike Evans. Who knows how long he still wants to play? He only has 1 year of guaranteed money. So yeah, maybe you do bring in somebody taller to work under the wing of Mike Evans. I'm just telling you, the 49ers, we know they're going to try to host Concepcion, and we know they're going to try to host Omar Cooper Jr. is a little bit bigger, not Deebo Samuel size though. The same way that somebody can work under the wing of Mike Evans though for an X receiver spot is the mentality they can have with Christian Kirk, right? Christian Kirk, he's also only likely a short-term player for the 49ers, a veteran, tail end of his career. He plays the F, the slot position. He can give him some return ability, and maybe they want some more return pop from a younger player who can learn under Christian Kirk, and I think that Casey Concepcion would fit really well in that regard. So, I mean, either way, the good news for the 49ers is that they've created an infrastructure at receiver that allows them to go multiple different ways. They don't necessarily even have to draft a receiver, of course. They have vets holding down the front line of all three spots, and that's something that they couldn't say before free agency started. You've got Evans at the X, you got Pearsall at the Z, you've got Christian Kirk at the F, and I think that is a good spot. Stop saying 1 year, he'll play 3 years. He might. Mike Evans might be with the 49ers for all 3 years of the contract. I think that would be great. I think that the contract is designed, though, to be a 1 year arrangement if that's what needs to happen. He's going to be 33 years old. So I'm just being realistic here. He has a 3-year deal with $14.3 million in fully guaranteed money, and it's worth $14.3 million per year. So 1 year is guaranteed. The other two aren't. 49ers and Mike Evans can decide on the future beyond 2026. That's just the setup right now. So they can go in many different directions here. And Christian Kirk, that is literally only a 1 year deal worth up to $6 million. And we're going to get the exact numbers on that here, I'm sure, within the next couple days. We have questions about trades up and trades down. I wouldn't be, and I hope that the 49ers have not really decided any of that strategy until they get up on the clock at number 27. You've got to see who's available. Again, like, don't call your play until you're actually at the down and distance and the game situation of the play. Like, you can't call the play 27 plays ahead of the play. You need to make a play that makes sense given the situation. And the 49ers don't pick until late in the first round. So it's so hard to talk about trade back strategy and trade up strategy. The only one thing I can talk about is if they really, really love like Monroe Freeling, right? The tackle out of Georgia. And they're dead set on going offensive tackle in the first round, and they need a trade up, probably an aggressive trade up to make it happen if you're the 49ers. Then that's something that you could be talking about entering this NFL draft. But trades down, right now on March 19th, over a month ahead of the draft, I can't even talk about trades down once the Raiders are on the clock in this NFL draft. It's too early to be talking about trades down from number 27. The draft actually has to start, and you have to see what talent is on the board or what talent isn't on the board when your time to pick comes. I am ready for some more questions. These are all good questions. I like the questions. I just want to explain the strategy as well as possible. A lot of people talking about Kenyon Sadiq. He's tested better than any tight end probably since Vernon Davis. Does that mean that he goes top half of the first round for sure? Maybe. Does it mean that he might sneak to 27? Probably not. Would the 49ers be interested enough to trade up to 20 if they think that they can grab him there? Maybe. That's when you could start talking about trades, is when guys like Kenyon Sadiq, if the 49ers really love him, start slipping to 15, 16, and then then that's like trade territory for the 49ers, right? They're 27. They could probably find enough ammo to logically and reasonably hop up to around number 20 to make a move. It's hard. They jumped up to get Brandon Ayuk in 2020. Not too many spots. What was it, like 6, Mike? Do you remember how many spots they jumped up? So they made the trade up to get Ayuk, I believe, ahead of the Green Bay Packers, who they thought were going to draft Brandon Ayuk. And they had enough draft capital to be able to do that. And I mean, now, obviously, they probably wish that would have gone differently. But Brandon Ayuk was a good pick. Any receiver who is able to turn into a very good second contract guy, which is what Brandon Ayuk earned on his first contract, that's a good pick. Unfortunately, it all went haywire, all went downhill after he signed that contract. I don't think they're going to be drafting a corner in the first round. Everybody always asks like something about a defensive back in the first round, and it just hasn't been in the 49ers history. Now, could they break from history? Sure. I just don't see it happening. I also don't see them being particularly weak at corner. I think safety is a bigger issue, but I think they could find a safety probably in the later rounds. They just haven't gone DB in that first round under Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. So I just don't see that happening. I don't think there's much of a chance the 49ers trade for Max Crosby. It seems like he's going to be with the Raiders. No, we've got the questions coming in now about Max Crosby, but it seems that whole saga with Baltimore has led him back to Las Vegas, and that is the way that it's going to be for this year. I'd be surprised to see him in a different uniform at this point. This is cool. Hello from a train headed to take my flight to Japan. Where are you flying from? Are you in the Bay Area? Are you headed to SFO? Glad to catch some 49ers news on the way for vacation. You're going to have to let us know in the comments section how Japan was. I still haven't made it out there. I've had to push back a couple of trips, but I really, really do want to make it out to Japan at some point soon. So kind of cool that you're on your way to Japan. Hope you have a lot of fun out there. And it seems like a really good time of the year to go. I know everybody talks about going to Japan in April, and maybe you'll be there in April. But you're definitely going to be there in late March, maybe before all the crowds hit the cherry blossom season in Japan. That is cool, though. I think that there was some frustration with Renardo Green, to answer this question, that we obviously saw during the divisional round game when Kyle Shanahan was yelling at Renardo Green on the sideline. Looked like he missed a coverage call. As far as they need to get this guy out of town immediately, I don't get that sense. I'll get a better idea. I'm going to ask John Lynch about it for sure, and Kyle Shanahan about it at the NFL owners meetings. So I think that we'll get a better read on that. Renardo wasn't terrible last year. I think he was definitely the 49ers' worst starting corner. I think that Lenore and Upton Stout were both objectively better. So you can theoretically get better at that cornerback 2 position, but at what cost, right? And you've got other spots on this defense like safety, defensive line to figure out. You have invested in linebacker with Dre Greenlaw coming back. I just don't see it as priority 1A for the 49ers to improve Renardo Green's spot. How you doing? I'm doing well. Thank you, sir. Nice note from a member. I like that. You guys can all sign up for a membership right now. And Renardo had a good rookie year as well. Yeah, you're right. So I think there's probably some recency bias following that game in Seattle. And it's just one of those things where there are going to be rumors because of what we saw on TV. And, maybe if they stumble into something great where they feel they can upgrade the team and do it at a cost that is not big, then yeah, you can make a move. But I just don't think that type of move is likely. When are the owners' meetings? They're coming up in a little over a week. I'll be headed to Phoenix, not this Saturday, but the next, and talking to John Lynch on Sunday, talking to Kyle Shanahan on Monday morning. and then back home from the owners' meetings. They're at the Biltmore this year in Phoenix, the Arizona Biltmore. Ready for some good questions. Do I think Shanahan will load up another QB in his offensive arsenal? That's one position where it's really hard for me to see the 49ers adding this offseason. Because you already have Purdy, you have Jones, you have Rourke, you have Adrian Martinez. Now, if somebody offers you a 1 for Brock Purdy out of nowhere, I mean, for not for Brock Purdy, for Mac Jones, somebody offers you a first round pick for Mac Jones, sure. Then maybe you sign Kirk Cousins. Maybe you add a different backup. But, assuming these 4 guys are on the roster and stay on the roster over the course of this offseason, I don't know if you add another quarterback unless you think that somebody gives you a massive upgrade over Adrian Martinez. But even then, like, how are they going to make the team? It would have to be an upgrade over Curtis Rourke, who you really haven't seen yet in an extended training camp, right? Because he was on NFI last year. So it's tough. Wow, thank you. I really appreciate that. Good stuff. Little $10 super sticker. Cool. So Lombardi herself is making cookies. And there's a countdown to the cookies, 5 minutes until they're out of the oven. They're really good cookies. So we're going to be wrapping up here in a few minutes to go eat these cookies. But the cookies are putting me in a good mood here to answer a few more questions. Being Butterfly thinks that Curtis Rourke is going to be a QB to watch. He played on an ACL at Indiana. That's all I need to know about his toughness. So we'll see what he can do at the NFL level. Shanahan obviously liked what he saw on tape when Curtis Rourke was a Hoosier. You cracked your screen smashing the like button. Don't make me have to get you a new phone, but I love it. Also love the San Francisco name that you've got going there. But let's go. The 49ers are more than happy to keep Mac Jones, assuming nobody wants to send over a king's ransom for him. I mean, why would you want to put yourself a play away from the season ending? Mac saved it last year for the 49ers. He could save it again. He might need to save it again in 2026. So to justify moving off of him, you would need just a return that could make you holistically better right now, significantly. And I think that might even mean first round pick. And if nobody's willing to send that, I know that's very unlikely, but if nobody's willing to send that, I think you're content at keeping Mac Jones on this roster at a very affordable salary cap price. What is the current market value for Jennings from Stockton 49er? Look at that. I love, what do they call it? An avatar or your profile picture? Your profile picture is candlestick set up for baseball. Now that's OG. That's cool. Candlestick set up for baseball from Stockton 49er, who, Stockton is where the 49ers had training camp not too long ago. I mean, it's already been a good, I think they had training camp there through the opening of Levi Stadium, probably when they moved it to Santa Clara. It's probably been 15 years. But anyway, good question. What is the current market value for Jennings? The market value is going to be determined by who he signs for, or what he signs for, who he signs with, what he signs for. I don't know. I think that the asking price of Juwan Jennings is probably higher than what teams are willing to give him, which is why he's unsigned. But once those two things match, then we'll know Juwan Jennings' market value. Somebody's asking, do I think the 49ers might trade Mac Jones at the deadline if Brock is still healthy. It depends on how the team is doing. If the team is undefeated at the trade deadline or just doing really well, I think it'd be really hard to trade your backup quarterback. I mean, we've seen teams win Super Bowls with backup QBs. We've seen the 49ers run out of quarterbacks and lose a chance at a Super Bowl because of that. So, gee, I really don't. I would get really queasy about trading Mac Jones away unless you get a massive return. And the thing about trading him in season is you can't do anything to make you better that season unless you bring a player over. But it almost certainly would be for a pick. And don't underestimate how valuable Mac Jones is. Just because the guy isn't a starter on the depth chart doesn't mean that he's not going to be a starter at some point in the season. Football happens, injuries happen. Sorry about that. I know it disappeared. I just wanted to come back to say goodbye. The cookies are ready. We'll talk to you soon.